Well, good afternoon, everybody. Looks like we have a quorum now, so we will go and start. Welcome to the July 14th, 2026 Transportation Policy Board meeting. So first, we have the approval of the TPB agenda for today, July 14th, 2026.
I move we approve the agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve today's agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on to the minutes. The next item is the approval of the TPB minutes from June 9th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from June 9th, 2026. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you. Next, director's report, Chad.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Transportation Policy Body. Today, there's no action item in the agenda. There is few items, should be a quick meeting, but again, your leadership is always appreciated and there is network opportunities at WAMPO as well. So we'll start with reporting some of our activities on UPWP, Unified Planning Work Program. As you all know, Unified Planning Work Program is a federally required document that illustrates what are the studies that's happening and activities. So Marky has that update as to start with. Marky.
Good afternoon. Yes, as Chad said, this is just this is our routine update, our quarterly report for the Unified Planning Work Program. So in your packet, you will see that quarterly task chart that we update every 3 months that just shows the status of all of those priority products and then the quarters in which we anticipate carrying those out. I will not read through them all now, just since I think you all would probably prefer looking at them yourselves, but please let me know if you have any questions or anything. And then you also see linked in the agenda packet, attached is our quarterly UPWP report, and that provides more details under each of those activities. And we submit that to KDOT along with our quarterly reimbursement package. That was brief, but if there are any questions about the quarterly task chart, please let me know.
Thank you, Mark. And the next item we have is 2027. That is the next year, UPWP activities and planning and staff coordinated with Federal Highway Administration partners and State Department of Transportation. And Marky especially lead all those coordination. Could you please update on that as well?
Thank you, Chad. Yes, so as we are doing the development for our 2027 document, we just wanted to provide some extra background information before next month providing some more details. So the Unified Planning Work Program is one of our core documents. This is developed annually, and it really does describe the activities that both staff and consultants will carry out throughout the year. The funding for the UPWP is primarily from the Consolidated Planning Grant, or CPG funds, which is 80% federally funded, and then we do match that with that 20% local match. The UPWP is kind of our overall document. It does serve a lot of purposes. It really provides those details on the staff tasks and activities. So that'll list the products that we will complete throughout the year and those kind of core deliverables, as well as those ongoing tasks that we continuously work on. And this is one of our federally required documents. Federal regulations specify that the UPWP needs to discuss any planning priorities in the metropolitan region, whether or not those are at WAMPO or other projects that use federal funding as well. I know this is hard to read up on the slide. Just thought we'd give kind of some key dates for this planning process. WAMPO met with our state and federal partners along with Wichita Transit on June 18th to go over some of our priorities for next year. And as we are working on developing the document more, we will present more details about those planned priorities tasks with the Technical Advisory Committee in about 2 weeks on July 27th, and then with this body on August 11th. That will be followed by a state and federal review period and then a public comment period for the document before it is brought back here for approval in November. Are there any questions on UPWP?
Thank you, Marky. And for the new members of the TPB, I would like to share with you that, Unified Planning Work Program, Transportation Improvement Program, and then Metropolitan Transportation Plan are three core documents that all MPOs in all cities and regions work on. So we also staff is very diligent in completing those. And then we always seek your approval, and that is the way the process in MPOs are, just for the benefit of the new members. With that, on the 2027 UPWP that Mark was sharing, we will seek your approval in the month of November. But, we were coordinating, and then we want to report to you what is upcoming, and there's a public, input sought for that, and then TAC approval in the next few months as well. And then thanks to Mark for, for being ahead of the game in this development on that.
Thank you.
All right, we have next item, TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. Nick has an update on, again, TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, is also one of the federal required document as well that documents 4-year committed projects. Welcome, Mike. Nick is here, so.
Thank you, Chad. In accordance with the TIP policy, we are required to give a bi-monthly update on the statuses of projects receiving suballocated federal funding in the current fiscal year, or that received it in a past year but are not yet done. You can find this information on page 11 of your packets. There you will find the table with the summary of all of this. The yellow ones at the top are current year projects, including in Butler County, the Southwest Butler Road improvements from Southwest 170th Street to Southwest 155th Street project, which let last year, but has an AC conversion scheduled for this year, which has not yet happened. In Wichita, the Wichita Intelligent Transportation System East 21st Street North project, another one that let last year, but has an AC conversion scheduled for this year that has not yet happened and is still to come. In Derby, the Rock Road Corridor Improvements project is anticipated to obligate in August, let in September, and be completed in July of next year. In Wichita, the Redbud Multi-Use Path near Rock Road Phase 2 project, that being the bridge over Rock Road for the path, is expected to obligate in July, let in August, and be completed in mid-2027. And finally, in Park City, the project 85th Street and Broadway roundabout is expected to obligate in August, let in September, and be completed in spring of next year. On page 12 of your packets, you can find a map of all these suballocated projects from the table on page 11. And also on page 11, you can find a table of all of the projects in the current TIP that have non-suballocated funding on them in the current year, just so you can have a status report on those as well. Any questions before we move on to the next item? Next item. We are currently in the final days of the public comment period for the federal fiscal years 2027 through 2030 TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. We had a call for projects February 2nd through March 6th of this year. Then the project selection committee considered which projects that among those submitted to recommend on March 30th. They made those recommendations, which were recommended again by the TAC on April 27th and approved by this body on May 12th. But in addition to those suballocated projects that were awarded funds through that process, the TIP is also required to include all other projects programmed to receive federal funding in the region, including non-suballocated funding through KDOT or Wichita Transit or a congressional earmark. And it also is required to include any project that is regionally significant, even if it does not have federal funding on it. As mentioned, we are near the end of the public comment period through July 16th, the 30-day public comment period as required by our public participation plan. And after that, the TAC will give its recommendation on the new transportation improvement program on July 27th. And then the TPB will make the final determination of whether to approve it or not on August 11th. Any questions about the TIP?
Thanks for the update, Nick. This timeline is helpful. So we'll move to next item. Kim Negrete is helping us to, give us a report on bicycle plan.
Good afternoon, TPB members and guests. Just a quick reminder that we're getting ready. We're getting geared up for the annual bicycle and pedestrian count. This is something that we do annually, and it has been done since 2012. We will be out at about 35 locations around the entire WAMPO region, and we will be doing the counts with the volunteers again, and then we will also be using the cameras that you approved back in 2024. So we'll be doing a hybrid approach in order to get the best data possible. So just letting you know that that's coming up, and so we will be creating a flyer and starting to recruit for volunteers soon. Any questions on the bike ped count?
Thanks, Kim. Also want to introduce Rachel Mayberry is here from Wichita Transit, and Rachel will be presenting, airport catchment data. It's very interesting. There were other places Rachel has presented. With that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Chad and staff. Always great to see all those or hear all those updates. Our next item is consent agenda. We have an update on the TAC roster. Marky.
As you know, this body is the authorizing body for the Technical Advisory Committee, so any changes to that roster do need to be formally approved. With that, we just have a fairly routine update. We have received documentation from Coordinated Transit District number 9 about a change in their designated their selected representative on the TAC. And so we are asking for your approval to update that TAC roster to reflect that updated appointment.
All right, thank you, Marky. Would anybody entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
A motion. A motion.
I second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you, Marky.
Thank you.
Next, we have item 3, public comment opportunity. So if there's any member of the public that would like to speak, your time is limited to 3 minutes. Anybody in the room? Anybody online? All right, see none. We will move on to the action item, which there are no action items today. Item 5, discussion and updates. Item A, Eisenhower Airport catchment data. Rachel, welcome.
Well, good afternoon. I'm used to kind of walking the room as I speak, so I'll try to stay in my little box. But wanted to give you an update. Chad had saw me present at REAP and give some of this data, and then there's updated data in here as well of what's going on at the Wichita Airport, specifically Eisenhower. So for those of you who are aware or not aware, the Wichita Airport Authority is over both Jabara and Eisenhower. This data will be specific to Eisenhower. So starting off with, I'll go over some of the Eisenhower leakage data, as well as what our 2025 performance looked like, and then give you some 2026 plans. So this is where I start to walk. Will everyone be able to hear me if I leave here? No. Oh, they won't. Okay. So, okay, that will work. So, there we go. Okay, so when we're looking at this map, this is a map from our leakage study. And so we have a consultant who does it about every 3 years for us. That's generally what best practice is as an airport. When I talk leakage, it's about when someone leaves their area and goes to another airport to fly out. And so this comes from catchment, which is who is coming to our airport, and then leakage, who is not coming to our airport. So what you'll see is we have 4 primary zones. This is our heat map. So when you look at it, you see this red section here. That's where the majority of our passengers are coming from. So it makes a lot of sense, Wichita and surrounding area. We also have some hot pockets up near Manhattan, Salina, Hutchinson, and then down near Enid, Oklahoma. So that falls in line really well with our primary catchment area, which is the Wichita area. And then we have a northern, a southern, an eastern, and a western catchment area. So this gives a little more detail into that. Keep holding it down. Into that same map. So when we're looking at it, the primary is this dark blue that goes all the way around. So this is what we say is our primary catchment for the airport of when people are driving into Wichita. Our northern catchment is this area. It's got Manhattan in it. Garden City's out here in the orange. That's our western. We have southern down here, which is Oklahoma. Enid is our big one here. And then we have the eastern one there. So that gives you kind of an idea of where people are coming from to fly out of Eisenhower. The largest concentration for us is that primary Wichita area. So this shows that we're capturing about 55% of all originating transportation or all originating passengers. So when you look at this map, or the bar chart, there's 2 different things here. So first we're seeing for our whole catchment area, what airport are people using? So 55% of our catchment area are using ICT, 23 Kansas City, and then you've got Oklahoma, Denver, Tulsa, Manhattan, and then DFW up here near the top. Then when you look at just the people who are flying out of Wichita, the percentages of what part of the catchment they're coming from. So that primary, that dark blue that we looked at the beginning, that's Wichita and area, about 62% of our passengers are coming from that primary area. The northern is the Manhattan, Salina area, about 16%. And then you come down here that about 5% are coming from Oklahoma, which when I reviewed this data, it was really surprising to me that people would come from Enid versus going down to Oklahoma City. So when you're looking at that data was from 2022, 2023. So what does 2025 performance look like? So our 2025 performance, if you've not seen our news, it was a record year of growth. We had about an increase of 3.24 year over year. And so when we were looking at total passengers in 2024, we're looking at about 1.809 million. In 2025, we grew to 1.867. So then when we're looking at as an airport and airports across the board, we're looking at emplanements. And so that's people who are originating out of Wichita, getting on a plane and leaving. And that's really the metric that we use. So when we looked at emplanements in 2025, we were 935,000, which is 3.13 year over year. So the magic number there is 1 million. We're trying to get it to 1 million right now. We're on target to hit that in 2028. The reason why 1 million matters for us is it's kind of a bragging right. It brings you out of the small hub. It gives us more opportunities for restaurants, which is a big thing for people, more opportunities for new routes and new development, new retail, new parking, all those. That 1 million really gets us to that place where we can start opening up more opportunities. When we look at the other growth of how we look at the health of an airport, food and gift, we were up 13% year over year, car rentals, almost a percentage, and then parking, we were up 2.61 year over year. So it shows you 2025 was a great year for us. When you look at COVID was a really bad year. So most airports were banking themselves against 2019. Now people are looking more at 2022, 2023, really seeing that recovery. 2025 for us was over top of the 2019 numbers. So when we look at health of an airport, we also look at our load factors. So load factor is essentially in a very remedial fashion is how many seats are filled. That's not, when you talk to an airline, there's a whole lot that goes into it more than that. But just from a remedial perspective, how many people are in the seats and how full are your planes? So when we look at the health overall of the airport, our planes are mostly full. And really the goal we're looking at is somewhere between the 80 and the 85 range. That's not perfect math because if you followed news lately, airlines make their money off their premium seats. If their premium seats are full, it doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of the plane, they've made their money. If the back of the plane is full, which is more of the economy, it could be completely full. And if the premium seats are not full, it's not a great flight for them. So when I say there's a lot more math going on than just how many people are in the seats, that's where we're going. But we have 6 airlines, and here it shows really the high performers for each of those 6 airlines. So Seattle for Alaska is the highest performing at the airport. It's on track for that again this year. Right now, it's a single daily flight. We've started talking about, do we upgauge that aircraft or do we add a second a day? Talking with Alaska about that. So they're about 86% full. It's not uncommon for them to be in triple digits for a full week. Causes issues because passengers can't get on that flight. It's only one time a day. So 100% full sounds awesome. It's not a great customer experience. So that's most of the time where you're trying to shoot for that 80, 85. When we're looking at, so G4 is Allegiant, their highest performing is Orlando. It is a seasonal flight. It's about 90% full when it flies. But their overall is 82%. So the Allegiant model is to only fly flights when people are flying. It's a mouthful, but they typically aren't flying on Tuesdays. They only fly during the time people want to fly, which means their planes are pretty full. They're really only there looking at what the demand is. American flew about 75% full. Their highest performing was their Phoenix flight. DCA was their lowest performing flight, and it's the lowest performing flight of the airport last year, which we'll get into a little more in another slide. Delta flew about 80%, with Atlanta being their highest. WN at Southwest, they flew about 73% full, with Las Vegas being their highest. So this is my nerd fact. Do any of you guys do trivia? Okay, so does anyone know why Southwest is WN? So the rumor is the original president of Southwest, his favorite country music artist was Willie Nelson. So that's one of, it's not confirmed, but that is the rumor of why it's WN, if you ever need that for a trivia fact. For UA, this is United. United flew about 81% full, with Orlando being Chicago O'Hare being its best flight. So then looking at 2025, we had 6 different campaigns go on during that time. We had the I Fly Wichita, the local fly local that was really focused on business flights. We had the DC contest. We had an I Fly Wichita that was more focused on leisure and family travel. We had a winter getaway. And then we had spring break and nonstop to 16 cities. So this really drove that demand in Wichita. So what are we looking at 26? We're now halfway through. The first thing I can tell you is we had a record Q1. It was our highest Q1 to date. We should have our Q2 numbers back probably the end of this week. Next week, we're looking at another record of Q2. Our May was 5% higher than any May we've ever had. And so it's looking very full. Last week, we actually had a load factor week of 90-something%. So last week was huge flying for people. When we're looking at capacity, so 2025, this was the amount of seats coming to the airport. So if every single flight was full, every single seat, what we were looking at. So in 2025, it was about 1.196 million. What is scheduled right now to date for 2026 is 1.252 million. So we are seeing a 4.7% growth of seats and planes coming in from the airlines. This is what I would consider mostly final at this point. The airlines have locked in. Unless something big happens, this will likely stay the same of what we're planning to see through the end of 2026. So part of what you'll see going on is the 2026 marketing campaigns. So the first one is that Q1 winter getaway. Does anyone remember, I think I saw an IDOT person, what happened in mid-January in Wichita? Mid to late. We had a really cold snowstorm. That was the day our winter getaway campaign started. And we got a bunch of calls and texts. How'd you guys do that? It was luck. We did not plan that, but that was the day all the billboards went up. Hey, getaway to Phoenix, to Florida, all of that. Our Q2 is our bleisure campaign. So right now in the travel industry, one of the big things is marrying business with leisure. So you add a couple days to your trip when you're traveling for business, you take along family or friends, and marrying those two. And so our campaign right now is really encouraging people, if you're going on business, extend your stay and have fun, or take your friends and family with you. So that way you can extend your trip. We're right now in the process of shooting a new iFly Wichita. This one will be bringing in some new demographics to the group that we've already had. So I'm really excited about that. And then Q4, we're start going back and forth about what do we want to do for Q4 and looking at the flights for that. So what about DC? So the good news is DC has started, has done much better since 2025. We're hoping to continue to see that growth. But part of what we did was we have done a 250th DC campaign, really pushing go to the nation's capital during the 250th and visit so that you can do that. So part 1 has already gone. Part 2 will be running leading up to Labor Day, encouraging families to do that. And really what you're looking at is that first year of a route is about building your awareness, about your momentum, and then you focus the second and third year on sustainability. So when an airline comes in, they'll tell you, we plan to lose money in the first year, break even in the second year, and we need to be making money in the third year. So that's what we're focused on right now, is helping, making sure those flights are full and doing what we can do to market that flight out of Wichita. Any questions?
No,
Perfect.
I guess not. I definitely appreciate it. It's, I have not seen this type of presentation before, not with airlines. So it's insightful. So thank you. All right, next we have item B, Regional Active Transportation Plan Update. Kim.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to share a lot of updates that have happened in the past month since you approved the Regional Active Transportation Plan. So, as you know, June 9th, TPB approved the Active Transportation Plan, and we have jumped right in. This plan is really looking at creating a comprehensive plan at looking at that connectivity, safety, and accessibility, especially looking at the connecting the communities throughout the WAMPO region. So we're very excited about that. Some of the main goals that I have here on the slide is to identify that regional network, like I mentioned, that connects those jurisdictions, also our trails, infrastructure, and other attractions, really focusing, like I said, on those gaps between the communities. We're looking to identify potential catalyst sites. As I mentioned, these are sites where they might encourage social gathering or economic development, or just points of interest in your community that you hope to share with the rest. We're also looking at updating our bike ped infrastructure maps. So we're working with all of the jurisdictions to make sure we get your latest bike ped infrastructure updated on a map. And then we will be looking at updating a bicycle map for the entire region, and looking at also some technology as well to assist with that. So just to give you a snapshot, I won't go through all this, but it is a one-year plan. So we're moving pretty quickly in order to get this accomplished and do a lot of good community engagement. So I do have 3 dates here on this slide that I wanted to bring your attention to. Right now, we're working on visiting each jurisdiction in the WAMPO region. So I know many of you, I've reached out and have met with your staff to really understand your kind of priorities for this plan and some opportunities that you might have in your community. So we're doing those right now. We'll be doing community open house kind of outreach events around the end of September and then again in spring. So quick project, but we're making good progress. So since last month when we were here, we have worked to complete a project management plan, a public engagement plan, which those are both being finalized. I mentioned the jurisdiction visits. So this is Valley Center yesterday. That was a really good visit with the consultant and WAMPO staff, and then the staff from Valley Center. And we are, of course, going to be kicking off an advisory group that will begin in August. So thank you for the recommendations and staffing for that. And then we're out doing presentations to the community. So doing a lot of engagement just so that the community understands what this plan is. And so that way, when you start sharing everything, they'll have a good idea of how to engage with us. So we are developing also a webpage that will help with that. So as I mentioned, right now, we're really trying to meet with each of the jurisdictions. That's really our main focus and priority so that we can ensure all of your goals are aligned in the project. So I may be reaching out to a few of you, or I may be seeing a few of you in your community as well. So any questions on the active transportation plan?
I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. All right, next we have item C, household travel survey update. Nick? Nick Jones?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update on kind of where we're at on the household travel survey. So go ahead, next slide. I'll kind of mention the team here for us. So there's the company I work for, that's ETC Institute. We do household travel surveys kind of all over the country. We do all sorts of other research as well, which I'll get into in just a second. But we've got Caliper. Caliper has worked on the WAMPO model for quite a while now. So they're a part of our team, and they're going through essentially the survey instruments and also the sampling plan that I'll talk about here in just a second. We're also working with Locus. They are a subsidiary of Cambridge Systematics. They're a kind of a big data company, and we're kind of using that information to also enhance the survey results as well. And Shockey Consulting, they're a Kansas-based public engagement firm who's helping us with the outreach plan and some of our methods of getting people recruited. For ETC Institute, now you can go ahead and go to the next slide. For ETC Institute, as I mentioned, kind of our main focus today is just the household travel survey. But we do all sorts of research, community survey research, transportation research for government public agencies all across the state, all across the country, I should say, but a lot of work obviously here in the state of Kansas as we're located in Olathe. You can go to the next slide. And so just with WAMPO experience alone, we did the last household travel survey that was conducted in 2010. We also did the external station survey and an onboard survey as well. And as I mentioned, Caliper's been heavily involved in the current travel demand model. We've also done, as I mentioned, hundreds of onboard transportation surveys, onboard transit surveys, also lots of household travel surveys, community surveys as well. One of the things that we're planning to do for this survey, you can go to the next slide, is to develop the sampling plan. So we're working with Caliper right now and WAMPO staff just to kind of finalize that sampling plan. Essentially, for this project, we want to make sure that we get a good representation of the entire study area. So we're using census information as well as the needs of the model itself to trying to determine the goals for the project. And so I think we're most of the way through that, but that's kind of how we develop these goals so that we make sure that when we get out of the data collection field, we have data that's representative even before we go to the weighting and expansion process. And one of the things that we do sort of in advance before we ever start collecting surveys is we will review the area itself using GIS software, some AI based on previous surveys that we've conducted. And we'll determine certain areas that we think are going to be more difficult for us to get surveys from. And so we'll kind of come up with a plan A, plan B, plan C to recruit those areas just to make sure that they get represented during the survey results. And we'll basically be monitoring all the information that we're collecting through dashboards. So as we're collecting in the field, getting all these households to participate, we'll be looking to make sure that the demographics are matching the study area. And we'll also be making sure that the goals are as well, just like I mentioned, to make sure that by the time we get done collecting, we've got data that represents your study area. One of the ways that's helpful for us to make sure that we get people in and through the survey process is we've got an integrated omni-channel communication platform. It's the same one that Amazon uses. Essentially, I won't talk too much about this, but we are able to keep track of all the communications we've ever had with a participant. We can also see where they are in the survey process. That way we can kind of pick up right where they left off. So if anybody gets stuck, isn't quite finishing that survey, we can reach back out to them and know exactly the last kind of communications they had, as well as where they are in the survey process. So there's different ways to participate. So with the data that we're collecting, we've got a smartphone mobile app that we've programmed in-house. We've also got an online web tool where people can manually enter trip information as well as their household and vehicle information. And you can also, participants will also be able to talk to our call center representatives, and really kind of any combination of all of those. It's an integrated platform. So if the parents participate via the smartphone app, but their kids are too young, they can actually just provide that information over the phone to our call center, or they can manually enter that trip information online. We're also translating everything into Spanish and Vietnamese, I believe. So including the web app and the smartphone app. So everything will be translated so that we make sure that everybody can participate. One of the things that I mentioned with that omni-channel communication platform, so what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that we are monitoring all the way through the process. And the purpose for this is to make sure that we actually get people through a very long survey. And so when somebody signs up, or when they go to log into the app and they qualify, we make sure that they are assigned a personal representative from our call center. This just allows us to make sure that that we can monitor those people and make sure that they at any point they can reach out to us. But if we also look and see that they appear stagnant, they haven't done anything for a couple of days, and maybe they need to get back to doing the survey, we can reach back out to them and try to help them along. So there's a couple different ways to complete the survey. So this is for the smartphone app. Obviously, you can see that kind of on the right-hand side. There's two different ways people can complete the survey. So when you download the app, you'll be able to qualify right away. And once you get through the qualification questions, which is just a handful of questions that generally come back to the variables that we use in the sampling plan to make sure that you're not in a cell that's closed out, for example. At that point, you'll set the permissions for the app, and then you get to see this screen. And at that point, you can decide whether you want to complete the survey all on your own, or if you want to set a meeting time with us. So if you set a meeting time with one of our call representatives, you'll be able to just show up to that meeting. That app will have collected all the information in the background, and we can basically finish off the survey with you. So all of that, the app will be doing kind of the bulk of the work, and then our call center can finish it off for you. And then that's just a way for us to kind of remove the burden on that participant. But like I said, if they feel like doing the entire survey by themselves, that's just fine too. So that's that. The survey completion one would be the meeting. And then if you go to the next slide, that'll be survey completion option number 2, where you can essentially get through that qualification portion and just go and then fill the survey out by yourself. And like I said, we'll have our personal representatives there to reach out to you if anybody looks like they've stuck somewhere along the line. So we do want to encourage smartphone participation. Just the trip rates collected through the smartphone app are generally higher. As you can imagine, with a smartphone, it's not going to forget if you stopped at the gas station or some of those small trips dropping off child, things like that. So we do encourage the smartphone participation, and it does make it easier really on the participant. So we try to push that as much as we can. And if you look at the next slide there, we actually collect our stops in kind of 2 parallel ways. So we're collecting it from the motion sensor of the phone itself, and we're also using the GPS chipset in the phone. We're kind of doing that in parallel. And the reason for that is that the algorithms that we're using allow those, basically if each parallel kind of system there identifies a stop, we feel really confident that that's a stop, and we're able to present that to the respondent. And so that way, as the respondent's traveling around with the smartphone app, the stops will just pop up on their phone, at which point they can go and answer questions about those individual stops. So with the different modes, so we can, with our smartphone app, we can actually suggest different modes of travel, whether it's walking or biking or a vehicle, public transit, things like that. But then we also ask and make sure that the respondent actually verifies that information rather than just kind of imputing that information. We can suggest it and then allow them to then confirm it or change it. If you go to the next slide there, yeah, there's the smartphone app. You'll see right there, that's the list view. I'll kind of get into first the map view. So if you go to the next page, so there's the map view. So a person, as they're traveling around on their travel date, they'll be able to see that those lines are essentially the GPS breadcrumbs that are creating that kind of smoothed out line of where the person's, how they've been traveling throughout the area. And then as our algorithms suggest a stop has happened, it'll pop up there. You can click it, and then you'll be asked a variety of different questions about, trip purpose, travel mode, things like that, just to be able to answer those questions. And you can do it that way, or you can do it on the list view, which is on the next page, where it's just more of a timeline from the beginning of the day until the end. And you can do the same thing where you click on each stop. If you stop there, we'll then ask you follow-up questions about the purpose and mode of your travels. I won't read the privacy protection page, but obviously with this sort of data, you're wanting to keep it, encrypted and safe, and so we've got lots of different measures there to make sure that this data is kept as safe as possible. So one of the most difficult things with these types of projects are the recruitment of the respondents. Response rates to these types of projects has gone down significantly over the years, just as people are more questioning of legitimacy of these types of surveys. The typical way of outreach for these projects has usually been through mailers, and just less and less people respond to things that they get in the mail. And so we have a few different ways that we go about trying to ensure that these projects are not only representative, but they're successful and we reach our goals. And so if you go to the next slide there, we start kind of first by understanding the community. As I mentioned, we kind of do that kind of analysis before we ever even get into the field, where we're looking at where we anticipate specific areas that are going to contain harder to reach demographics. And we're coming up with different plans to, if the response rates in those areas are lower, what we can do to try and combat that. And we've had a lot of success with it here, especially recently. Some of the household surveys that we do, for example, in the Phoenix area, the previous household survey wasn't even completed. We came in 3 or 4 years later, completed it, not only completed it, got 1,000 surveys more than they asked for, and we got a good representation of Hispanic residents. And so that one we were very happy about. Also, we do a lot of work with TxDOT, and there's a lot of some of the more rural areas like Victoria, Texas, for example, Victoria County. We ended up getting 1 out of every 20 households to participate. So that was a significant effort, but we were able to get it. And so some of the ways that we do that, that's a little bit unique compared to other groups. If you go to the next slide, one thing that I like to do is make sure that we get on the news, and we won't play this video for you, but there's lots of these. In fact, that's where I'm at today. I'm in Memphis. It just did a news interview with the local news station here in Memphis that we will use not only to go out on to the airwaves, but we're going to take that video and use it for some of our social media ads as well. And we'll also be adding a QR code to the postcard. So I'll explain that here in just a second. But we go out we get on on TV, we talk about the survey. We want to make sure that we get across the legitimacy and those trust factors that are necessary to make sure that people feel comfortable participating. So that's one important thing. An additional thing, if you go to the next slide there, we make sure that all our project websites are accessible and that they're also translated into the project languages that are necessary. Just having those, a nice project website makes people feel like it's a more of a legitimate process. And so we make sure that that happens. And we also want to make sure that everybody can understand it and follow along. You go to the next slide there. So one of the things with the postcards, we're kind of this is sort of a draft version. We're still working on the postcard, but we're getting closer to the end of designing that final postcard. So on one side, first of all, we do a much larger postcard than normal. So we don't do the 4x6. It's too small. So we go with a 6x11 inch postcard. Gives us more surface area to explain the survey and get people interested. The front side's in English there, backside will be in Spanish. And one of the things that we'll also do after we do a TV interview there, we'll take a QR code of that. We'll upload the interview to YouTube, and then we will make a QR code of that and add it to the postcard so that people can also scan that and kind of see the interview as well, just as one additional layer of legitimacy for the entire project. To the next slide. One of the other things we've done, not necessarily something that we will do, but we can do, is we've worked with local news anchors to create television commercials. Those television commercials can be streaming television. Streaming television is actually relatively inexpensive compared to what you think of when you think of broadcast television, the expenses for that. So it's become a way that we can target really at the individual address-based level. So that does offer a lot of flexibility as far as targeting certain groups if necessary, if they were having difficulty reaching those groups. On to the next slide. We also talked about the social media ads. So one of the things that, besides just a traditional social media video or an ad for people to look at, one of the things that I mentioned was we can actually take those news interviews and cut them up into smaller sort of 15 to 30 second bites and make social media ads out of them. Just an additional way that we can kind of be able to target folks at that address-based level using social media. One additional thing that we've been doing here lately that's had a lot of success is we've been essentially donating a mural in some of these areas. So we want to create some goodwill. We want to create some legitimacy. So typically on not in every location, but for some locations, we'll go on, talk about the survey in general, but then also talk about a partnership that we've made with a local group. We'll show videos of us creating the mural just to kind of, enhance their location. But it's a way for us to kind of get into the community and kind of say, not only is the transportation survey that we're doing here going to do something good for the community now and in the future, but we're also here physically, in your community doing something positive. And we've had a lot of success from that sort of outreach of kind of reaching out to people and getting that goodwill across. And then just sort of next steps here with the project. So we're going to have our first steering committee meeting here in early August. We've got the pilot survey planned for around mid-August. And we're hoping to start our main survey collection probably after Labor Day, making sure that school is in session. And we're anticipating that the model integration will be done in summer of 2027 with the final reporting happening in the early 2028. And with that, that's all I have. And if there are any, questions.
Thank you, Nick. How do we get a hold of you?
Well, you can email me or go through Nick there or Peter, but my email is nick.jones@etcinstitute.com.
Go ahead.
Nick, thanks a lot for the elaborate game plan because this is a great effort and it's not that easy. And you shared your expertise. Staff has a lot of confidence in you and the experience you have around various parts of other MPOs. You mentioned a couple of things like how survey completion is done. And the second thing that you touched upon is how outreach efforts have some challenges like skepticism and response rate and so on. So I was curious about how some of our jurisdictions can assist. We have several jurisdictions who have social media and other things. So we also want to make sure it is successful, the project is successful to WAMPO and its jurisdictions. So we want to, like for example, there are advisory board meetings that take place in various jurisdictions and then social media. So tell us how we can assist you in this effort, especially the outreach efforts, and we're happy to collaborate with you.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah, I think we've been meeting pretty frequently, obviously in the early stages of the project. So we've been talking about those efforts. We're going to be putting together, as I mentioned, some of the committee meetings. We're also I think I'm doing some additional presentations and that's a big part of it. It's just kind of getting the awareness out through your social media channels, but we'll put together a game plan so that, I don't want to have, I don't want to make it difficult for anybody. So we'll kind of put together a game plan and kind of put it out there so that people know kind of what we're looking for, what would help us. But yeah, it's mostly going to be just getting the awareness out, whether it's on your social media channels or anything along those lines. So, but yeah, that's always great. I appreciate the assistance for sure. We don't always get that. So I've had a good time working with the WAMPO staff. They've been very helpful, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nick? Well, Nick, I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Next area is the committee and partnership updates for the executive committee. We're going to change the date on the next two. Instead of August 6th, it's going to be August 13th. And then instead of November 5th, it'll be October 29th. So I know myself and vice chair will be out of town on those dates. So that's why we're changing it to those dates. So Chad will get something out. So appreciate that. August 13th and October 29th. Correct. Same time, same place. Thank you. All right. Next we have item B, Kansas Department of Transportation. KDOT. Mike, welcome. Good to see you in town.
Oh, it's great to be here. I don't have much. I did want to just quickly congratulate the city of Wichita for receiving the build grant, which was announced last year for the airport planning and design. So that's great to hear. The state of Kansas, or I shouldn't say the state, Kansas in general was fortunate to receive 4 awards. And 127 were awarded nationally. So that's good for Kansas, right? So again, congratulations to our good friends at Wichita.
All right. Congratulations, Wichita. All right, thank you. Next, we have Kansas Metro Division. JB.
Good afternoon, everybody. Crews working in coordination with KDOT completed a false floor installation on the Wichita North Junction Phase 2B project ahead of an upcoming bridge deck construction activities. The work was completed on westbound K96 to southbound I-135. It provides temporary support crews need to continue installing leave-in place deck forms, a key component of the bridge construction process. Once installation is complete, crews will begin placing reinforcing steel before the bridge deck pour. The project is continuing to advance as crews construct the new flyover ramp from westbound K96 to southbound I-135. Crews will also implement a single lane closure on westbound K96 between 127th Street and 13th Street beginning on July 20th. As part of the East Kellogg expansion project, the closure will include an 11-foot width restriction which will allow crews to continue construction activities in that area.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have member jurisdiction updates. Are there any member of this board that would like to provide any updates? If not, we have no other business. Next item is adjournment. Would you like to adjourn? Anybody?
A motion to adjourn.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed. All right, thank you.